Hey guys, welcome back to Nashville on the Rocks, the podcast that brings you the best of the Nashville rock scene. I'm your host, Lisa Karkos, and today we have a very special guest. He's a talented performer, songwriter, and guitar player. Hailing from a small town in Illinois, our guest found his way to the music capital of the world, Nashville, Tennessee, and has been making big waves ever since. After joining the rock band Bombshell Crush and moving to Nashville, he has since formed several killer rock bands, including the modern rock band Caprice and the classic rock band the Eastside Gamblers. With talent, drive, and his vibrant personality, he solidified himself as a heavy hitter in the rock scene. As well as being a charismatic frontman and guitarist, our guest has shared the stage with some of rock's biggest names. In 2013, he joined the Tom Kiefer band alongside rock singer Tom Kiefer of Cinderella, and in 2022, he joined Damon Johnson's band Brother Kane. So grab a drink, sit back, and get ready for a deep dive into the musical life of our talented friend, Tony Higbee. Thank you so much, Tony, for coming on the podcast. This is fantastic. Everybody, I just want to introduce our new guest on the podcast, Tony Higbee. Tony, we have been planning this for a few months now.
Yeah, I apologize.
No, my God, you are so busy. I am so happy that we could make this. Thank you for taking your time today to come on in. Dan and I have known you throughout the years for a while, and we've seen a lot of really cool things you have done. So for our audience today, I'm sure they know who you are, but if they don't, we're going to introduce you to Nashville on the Rocks.
All right.
All right.
Let's do this, man.
Yes.
Thank you for coming on, by the way. Man.
Thank you so much for coming
it's my
on.
Pleasure. I'm glad you had me. I'm flattered you asked.
Oh, of course.
Life is always busy and crazy for all of us. And it was just kind of one of those, you asked me a couple times, I'd be like, oh yeah, me up here. And oh God, and wait, I got to go. Oh shit, this came up. And so anyways.
Well, no, you're busy. You have so many projects going on right now. And then that with your music, with work, with everything that you do outside of work, with like your dog rescuing, which I think is amazing. I want to talk about all of that. So to start it out, I know you've lived in Nashville for the better part of about 20 years, right?
I moved here in August of 2003.
Okay, yeah, so a little over, and you've seen so many changes that have happened along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think that people... I don't think that people that are outside of Nashville realize the amount of changes that have happened here. Like, you hear it, but to be here and to see it throughout this time, even in the 10 years that I've been here alone, it's changed so much. So you've really had a chance to see some wildness occur with the population growth, with all the different music venues that have come and gone, and the band, and just the music scene. I kind of want to talk about like where you came from and like why you moved to Nashville.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, so you're from Illinois?
I'm from Central Illinois.
Got it.
A little town called Monmouth that's central western Illinois. And it's funny because with Illinois, when you tell somebody you're from Illinois, 90% of the time they go, "Oh, you're from Chicago." And I'm like, no, I'm like not anywhere.
There's a whole other state.
Like it's like 4.5 hours from where I live to Chicago. And if you ever drive Illinois north to south, it's like 12 hours. It takes for fucking ever.
Really?
So, oh yeah, it's
That's
ridiculous.
crazy.
So it's a long state.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I grew up in the cornfields. The town that I was born and raised in initially was like population 9,000, roughly, give or take.
Oh my God.
And then my parents, when I got to junior high, moved out to a rural area, and I wound up out in basically the cornfields, 7 miles outside of that town, going to the farm school. And my graduating class was, I think, 36 people.
What's a farm school?
Farm school.
Farm school.
Yeah, I'm just like all the kids whose parents had farms.
I got you.
All got bused to that school.
Oh my God.
So
you were really out there, and 36 kids, that's not very many.
No. The school that I graduated high school from is called Warren. And it was shaped like an H. And if you looked at the H from above, to the left was kindergarten through 6th grade. The middle of the H was junior high, and then this side was high. The right was high school.
God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was literally kindergarten through 12 in one building. Bust there every day. Yeah.
How did you end up doing music, being that you're in maybe such a remote part of the country. You know what I mean? Like, what are some of your first influences? You know, I mean, did you have concerts that came close by? Did you have to like go out of your way to see them?
I had to go out of my way.
Yeah,
so,
I would think.
So I mean, listen, I was obsessed with music from the time I can, like literally from my very first memories. My dad had, you know, always had a stereo and records and music playing and 8-tracks in the car. And, you know, there's a photo that exists that's me as an infant with the big set of the 70s green, like olive green headphones on with the coil cord going in the console stereo.
Love it.
In a diaper, asleep. And I've seen that. I remember years ago seeing that photo and asking my dad, is that staged or is that real? He goes, oh, no, that's real. That was almost every day. And I was like, what am I listening to? And he goes, well, and this explains a lot. He goes, well, when you were a little kid and you were fussy, I could lay you down and put the headphones on you. And there was like 3 records I could put on that would automatically calm you. He goes,
that's cool.
He goes, it was either Grand Funk Railroad's Marked On and Mel, or it was Deep Purple's Made in Japan.
Nice.
Or it was Black Sabbath Volume 4.
That's not bad for like a baby.
Yeah, and to this day,
I'd be proud of that.
And to this day, when I hear those records specifically, I still get those feelings of nostalgia.
Sure.
That you get, you know.
Yeah.
That come up, and I don't, you know, and I know that's why, but it's kind of magical, you know. I still have that copy of Black Sabbath Volume 4 framed.
That was your dad's?
That was my dad's, signed by Tony Iommi.
Nice.
Now, and framed in my living room. There's like 4 records in there that all have a special place that are connected with my childhood that were really important to me. And that's one of them. You know, another pivotal thing, and I told this story to somebody the other day, another one of those records is the first Boston album.
Okay.
And the reason that was so huge was one of my earliest memories. My dad, all that cool musical taste, he had that first Boston on an 8-track, and I vividly remember him driving a red Oldsmobile 42 with the white leather interior and the white pinstripe.
Oh, sounds awesome.
And he had a Pioneer 8-track strapped to the bottom of the dash.
Okay.
Right? And the 6x9s in the back, and it was louder than an act of God. And he had this case of 8-tracks, and I vividly remember that leather case of 8-tracks. And one of them was that first Boston record. And I guarantee you by the time I was 4 years old, I knew every word to every song on that record, or at least what I thought was every word.
Right.
And I was enamored with it. So my dad had already bought me my first console stereo for Christmas when I was 3.
Oh, wow.
But it was to keep me out of his records. So he gave me like this little stack of records.
So awesome.
And this JCPenney console stereo that had a turntable, an 8-track, and a pair of speakers. And he gives me this stack of records, and he bought me 2 new records.
Okay.
Or one was a record, one was an 8-track. Clearly he wanted me to be a piano player. He bought me Elton John's Greatest Hits Volume 2.
Okay.
And he bought me Billy Joel's The Stranger.
Oh, that's both of those are great.
Classic.
Yeah.
The Stranger's still one of my favorite records of all time. And, you know, he bought me that stuff, but he had that Boston 8-track, and I'd make it listen to it every time we were in the car. So my first record I ever bought with my own money, every Sunday we go to my grandma's house, my mom's mom. And I would go over there and sweep my grandma and grandpa's patio. My grandma would give me a quarter, and it would go into a Skippy jar. And I saved those quarters in a Skippy jar until I had enough money to go buy that record. So I made my dad take me to Musicland, which was the Midwestern arm of Sam Goody.
Okay.
Back in the day, right? At the mall. And I still vividly remember walking in, it had been 79, and seeing the display for the new Kiss album, Dynasty. I just remember that record cover just staring me in the face. And I really didn't know Kiss yet, but I remember that cover. And then the Boston records were there, and the second record, Don't Look Back, had just come out. And my dad's like, "Are you sure you don't want that one?" Because of course I'm sure he wanted, that in the house. I'm like, "Nope, I want this one." I grabbed the first Boston record. We walked up to the counter, and I remember being so little that I reached up and I slid the record onto the counter like that. And then I reached down and I grabbed my Skippy jar of quarters and I slid those up onto the counter. And this high school girl who's working the counter leaned over, and I remember her looking and going, "Oh my God, this might be the cutest thing I have ever seen." And I'm pretty sure my dad immediately leaned in and started flirting with her because he was that kind of guy, unfortunately. But, I'm like, to be fair, my dad was also only maybe 23, 24 at the time.
Oh my God.
But yeah, but he was married to my mom though. So anyways, But yeah, so I bought that first record, and I played that record so much that it's not a gatefold, but it opens like a gatefold that covers that worn out. But that record is framed and also hanging in my living room.
Was your dad a musician?
He was a bass player. My grandfather, his dad, was a horn player. He was a trumpet player.
Cool.
So he had a...
It's in the blood.
Yeah,
he had a jazz orchestra. He's a super talented guy. He had a swing band called Dick Higbee and the Starlighters.
Oh, I love it.
And he was a great horn player. He's a great singer. He had, evidently, from what I understand, jammed with people at WGN up in Chicago back in the day.
Okay.
Buddy Rich, different guys like that. Like he was legit. And but he sold insurance, when I was a kid all over, central Illinois up until, he retired. But, he still always kept playing and doing charity shows here and there every year and stuff like that. And, just
still active in it.
Yeah, I was still active in it. And then my dad played bass.
Oh, I love it.
And,
okay.
A lot of people don't realize I'm a bass player first and a guitar player second. And it's because of my dad.
I would say that it seems like a natural progression at that point.
Too. I was the kid that, my dad had a old Hagstrom bass and this giant vintage Sun all-tube bass rig that he had in his band when he was, his cover band in high school called Eternity Road.
Okay.
And he never got rid of that rig. And so when my friends started jamming when I was like 12, 13 years old, there's my dad's bass rig. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I had that going. And, I just started playing bass as a result.
Was that your first gigs that you started playing?
Yeah.
Like when you were 12, 13?
Yeah, probably.
With your friends?
Like the VFW Hall.
Oh, I love it.
Like when I was 13 years old. We're up there throwing down Metallica covers and, That makes
me so happy to hear.
I was a massive Cliff Burton fan.
I love it.
Massive. I had the wah pedal, the tube driver, and, I'm literally sitting there playing Anesthesia and For Whom the Bell Tolls and just,
Did you guys have people that would come out and see you?
Yeah. Okay,
that's good.
All of our friends.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, we could put a couple hundred kids in a VFW hall.
Oh, that's see, and the pros about that is that living in a place where it's that small is that people are looking for things to do. So all those people are coming out to go into one place, and I guess the bad part is that you're really kind of very far and separated from a lot of things. Yeah. So I get that too.
I was obsessed with music. Mm-hmm. So, and that's why I left.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I say this the right way because I don't want it to sound like an indictment on where I'm from because it's not. But I do think, I know a lot of people that grew up there with me that are still there. Mm-hmm. Their parents grew up there, never left. Their grandparents grew up there, never left. Their kids are there. They haven't left. They're not going to leave. Mm-hmm. And I think I recognized, at a pretty young age, if I wanted to be a musician, I couldn't stay there.
Of course, yeah.
And I mean, as grandiose as the idea was with some of my friends and stuff like that I grew up with, living in, people that I hold very dear to my heart to this day, I knew I had to get out.
Yeah.
And
you need to go to another place.
Yeah. Plus there's very much a small town mentality, I think, when you're growing up where, think about the person that you were when you were 12 years old. Think about the person you were when you were 20 years old. Mm-hmm. And then when you were 30 and then you were 40 and 50 and all the changes you go through in your life. And you're just, by the time you're 18, 20 years old, you're a completely different human being than you were 8 years ago. And that happens. You just grow, you evolve. And I think that in a lot of cases, when you grow up in those areas, people develop an idea of who you are at a very early age. And then it's just something that sticks with you for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And you don't ever escape that. You don't really have the chance to grow and evolve and, and
absolutely
have different ideas and
to break out.
Yeah,
try different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I, when I left, I moved to Atlanta. I stayed as long as I stayed to go to college. Started playing in bar bands when I was 17. There was a band that I was in. I'm still friends with all these guys. They're just wonderful human beings, super talented dudes, actually. We were in a band called Split Personality.
Oh, I love it.
And we were like,
what a great name.
Kind of hybrid. We were playing covers, and we were, but we were writing a little bit too. And that was kind of my earliest dabbling in writing. And I mean, I was putting myself through college and working. Started off, I was working 2 part-time jobs, and playing in a cover band and going to school full time. Like,
Wow.
I have no idea how I did it.
That's crazy.
I was like working at a CD store. I was nighttime DJ at a local rock radio station.
Oh, that's fun.
And I was playing in that cover band.
Yeah.
And we were doing 2-3 nights every weekend, doing 4 1-hour sets.
So the crazy thing is, it sounds like music was everywhere. So like maybe that's what kept you going, but it sounds like you didn't really sleep.
No.
You know what, Tony? Like, where'd you get the work ethic from, man? Is that from your folks, or like just being from the town? Or?
Yeah, I mean, listen, honestly, it's more from my mom than anybody. I mean, the work ethic, I would say, absolutely came from her, and it came from her dad, my grandfather, who was a proud Irish carpenter who worked all the way up until I think he was probably 67. He retired, and if my family would have let him, he probably would have kept working until he fell over.
Yeah.
But he, that's definitely where that came from. But
sure,
I didn't have any options. I had to, even with grants and stuff like that, I had to work to get myself through school. But my mom knew how badly I wanted to play music for a living, and the only thing she made me promise her was, I will support you in whatever you do. Just do me a favor and go to college. Just get a degree. After that, have at it.
What's your degree in?
I have a degree in public communication and human relations with a minor in psych.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of wondering if it was something along the lines of like communication, so I get that.
Yeah.
I also have a psych. I have a minor in psych, and my major's in poli-sci. But that's interesting because I almost went down that same road.
Yeah.
So that's nice that she was supportive of you in the process. I feel like most of the people that I want to make a point of this. I feel like most of the people that we've talked to have had really supportive parents, which I think is absolutely incredible. You know what I mean? They have a lot of good people giving them a good, strong foundation. Take note, people. It's not all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That comes after. The fun stuff needs to happen first.
No, it is, babe. It really, I think it is. It's your opinion.
Oh, that's my opinion. So after you were in Atlanta, how long were you there?
So I left Illinois when I got out of college, and I got out of college at the end of 99. I went to Atlanta, and I put myself through college, and I started part-time. I took a year off before I started college. So by the time I graduated, I was like 25. So I leave Atlanta at the end of 99, or I'm sorry, Illinois at the end of 99. I moved to Atlanta, and I was there until August of 2003. So when I was there, I moved there. I didn't know anybody. My mom, my stepdad, my little brother and sister by that point had all moved to West Point, Mississippi. And, I loved them all very much. And I wanted to be closer to them because God knows where I was at in Illinois was like, 15, 16 hours away.
Sure.
But Atlanta was far enough away, but it was like a 4.5 hour straight shot,
Well, it's
driving
not bad
across
at that point.
Alabama. Yeah, to get there, just get on 20 and go.
Sure.
And I wanted to go somewhere where I could start over. I didn't know anybody. Someplace that seemed to have a cool rock scene. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to go to LA. I kind of knew that at that point in my life anyways. I wasn't ready for that. And here was Atlanta, and if you think about what was happening there at the time, 99, Seven Dust, Stereo Mud, Double Drive, The Marvelous Three. Mm-hmm. The Marvelous Three being the last one that I was like, wow, what an amazing band. And of course, this is long before I knew Butch. And I was like, okay, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And I moved down there. I went and stayed with my mom for about a month after I got out of school. I drove to Atlanta and interviewed at the big Guitar Center there.
Oh, cool.
And they hired me. And I literally went and looked in an apartment, like, as soon as I got done with the interview, that was like a stone's throw away. Like, I could walk there.
That's perfect.
And then drove home, and I was like, or drove back to Mississippi. I was like, hey, they hired me. I've got an apartment. I'm leaving in 3 weeks.
Oh my
and
God.
that was kind of how it went. And I was there and got into the music scene there and, kind of found my way around and kind of more importantly, I found myself. I kind of figured out who I was and got really secure with myself in a positive way while I was there, because like we were talking about, I wasn't around anybody who had any preconceived notions about who I was supposed to be.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
kind
important.
of find yourself. And, you know, when you're 25 years old, it's pretty huge, you know. You need to really be able to figure that out. And it was, you know, some of the happiest years of my life. I played in a really killer rock band called Simple Sick Device. We were one of those like got this close kind of bands, you know. Everybody knew who we were. We were packing clubs. You know, same old story. We couldn't get out of our own way. We imploded probably before we had a chance to, actually way before we had a chance to reach our potential. And we were at a point where labels were just starting to come and look at us. And, you know, we had the biggest entertainment lawyer in Atlanta showed up at our shows, wanted to represent us. And, you know, this just all those things and just, and it was weird. It was like in 2003, that whole rock scene seemed to collapse, like almost overnight.
Interesting.
Marvelous 3 broke up. Double Drive broke up. Injected broke up. Stereo Mud broke up. Seven Dust were kind of on hiatus. They'd done a couple records. And like, it's just like all these killer bands just like almost seemingly overnight went away. And then a couple of the key rock clubs either closed, or there was this one called the 10 High, or the Dark Horse, as a lot of people knew it. That was like a foothold for a lot of local independent rock bands, great rock bands, that one of the guys who was running it turned it basically into a live karaoke bar, because he had a band that was doing this live karaoke thing and he was double dipping. And, you know, he totally did that. And then this place kind of went away.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was a lot of stuff that just kind of made me go, huh.
What are you doing at that point?
And right around that time, a good friend of mine, this guy named Denny Smith, who I knew from back in Illinois, was moving to Nashville to start a band called Bombshell Crush. And,
oh, that's a cool name.
Yeah. And the drummer was a guy named Billy Baker, who still is here, makes Baker drums. Amazing drummer. He was in a band that was real big regionally in the 90s called Valentine Saloon. They were killer.
Why do I remember that band?
Yeah,
I mean, they had an album called Super Duper that, I mean, they made some headway. They were out touring with bands like, you know, Life, Sex, and Death, and you know,
is
stuff
he
like
the
that.
one that came up with Bombshell
Crush?
Yeah, the same.
Billy?
He came up with the same name?
I don't know. I gotta be honest. That's a great question.
Yeah,
that's a great question.
right?
I don't know. If you asked him, I'm sure he'd say yes.
It just sounds like he's got a knack for naming bands.
Absolutely. Well, you know, and listen, it's very possible he did. Billy's a super creative guy, and you know, but it was Denny, it was Billy, Joey Osisic. Everybody knows him as Joey O, who works for Martin Guitars now. He was the other guitar player at the time. This real charismatic singer named Michael Clark. So I moved here, and I thought, okay, fuck it, I got nothing holding me back in Atlanta. I'm going to move to Nashville. It's a few hours away. I can drive back to Atlanta, visit whenever I want. I'm going to do this, see how this band works out. If it doesn't work out in a couple of years, I'll move on. Maybe I'll go to LA then or do something. And the night I got here, I met my future ex-wife. Oh. And that kept me, you know, things happen for a reason.
Yep.
And I literally, we were roommates, and he had to drag me off the couch the first night I was here because I was exhausted from moving to go see this band that was playing at Exit called Legion. And we wound up doing shows with those guys and becoming friends. And we knew we were going to be doing shows with them. And my ex-wife was there, and I met her there. And that was the next almost 15 years of my life was with her. And by that point, you know,
you're already established here. Like you have so much going on.
Once again, moved here as a bass player. But then when Bombshell Crush folded after a couple years, my brother by that point had moved here, Cody. And Cody's a rock solid bass player. And who would want to be in a band with their brother? So I wrote everything on guitar. I loved playing guitar. At that point, I almost liked playing guitar more than I played bass, and more than I liked playing bass. And I was like, and in my mind, I was like, you know what? Most people do not look cool trying to front a band playing bass. Like there's like 4 guys maybe that ever pulled it off. Phil Lynott, Lemmy, Sting,
Doug Pinnick, Sting when he's not using the headset mic. That's automatic foul. But you know, like those. I agree with that.
Yeah, those are kind of the dudes.
Yeah,
that was it. You know, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to front the band and play guitar. Cody's going to play bass. Put this band together called Caprice. So
that's also a fun name.
Thank you. It was a name that I totally bit off of a song title from one of my favorite bands, this band from London called the Wild Hearts. And they had a song called Caprice. I kind of looked up the definition and I was like, okay, that's cool. And that wound up being the band name. Once again, kind of started making some headway, had people coming out to see us, had some, label guys coming out to see us. And then I got cancer.
Holy shit.
So started telling family and my new wife and everybody, I've got cancer. And, my mom and my dad are coming in to visit. First time they'd sat in a room together in years, and, all these things. And I went through all this stuff. They're testing my tissue samples. They're trying to figure out, for sure if I have lymphoma and if I have Hodgkin's disease. They took 3 tissue samples. And the first 2 tissue samples come back negative. And all of a sudden my oncologist is looking at me, starting to prepare me for this other thing that I might have. And I forget what it's called, but basically it was this rare disease, super rare, that presents itself like Hodgkin's lymphoma. But you don't actually have Hodgkin's lymphoma. What happens is all your organs are slowly starting to harden until you die, and there's nothing they can do. And other than make you comfortable. And I'm like,
what the fuck?
Totally.
What kind of bullshit is that?
I'm just like, wow. And then the phone rings in his exam room. And he picks it up and yeah. Okay, click. And he goes, you've got Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I thought he was going to do a fucking cartwheel. He was so happy. Cause he was like, and he said, listen, the next 6 months are going to fucking suck. He goes, I feel good about this. The long-term effect on that was, with Caprice anyways, was, the labels that were coming to check us out, their interests were like, oh my God, Tony, we're so sorry. This is terrible news. We'll be thinking about you. Best of luck.
And that was
because what record to be fair, what record label in their right mind is going to sign the band with the singer that's got cancer? You know what I mean? Or it may come back. Think about the advances they were giving bands back then, or the money that took to get a band off the ground. And forever we were kind of branded as the band with the singer who had cancer. So we had 2 full-length albums that we did on our own. And then after a while, it kind of fizzled. We went through a few guitar players. Our drummer decided he didn't want to do it anymore. So me and my brother kind of started from scratch, got a new drummer, and we were like, okay, you know what? Let's kind of strip the modern active rock sheen off a little bit. Maybe go back to our classic rock roots a little bit. And that's when we started the East Side Gamblers.
Yes.
So we had this, which I was in when I met you.
Yep.
And, probably when I met Dan.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started that band, and the very first show we did, we were a power trio. We got this drummer named Kobe Galeen, who was in another local band. He's a great guy. Great rock solid
Wait,
drummer.
Tony, let me stop you right there, man. Let me ask you, was the East Side Gamblers after you were in Tommy Kiefer's band?
No, it was before.
Before. Okay, I just want to make sure my timeline is right, because I think I met you. Okay, I don't want to interrupt, man.
No. Yeah, I can get that.
What year are we talking about at this point? Because when did the East Side Gamblers start?
I think, if I'm remembering right, I started playing with Tom in 2013.
Okay.
So the Gamblers probably started late 2011.
Okay.
Maybe early 2012.
So similar in time frame. And that is just, and I wanted to, maybe I should, since we're already pausing for a second, maybe I should go in here and say, like, so you sound like you always played bass, and then you kind of secondarily always play guitar.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you were always a singer in the process too.
Yeah.
But then when you became a front singer?
In Caprice.
Got it.
Yeah, and that was part of it. Like with Bombshell Crush, there was a lot of very talented guys in that band who could write.
Yeah.
And so and same with Simple Sig Device. It was me and the front man who were doing the bulk of the writing. He was doing even more of the writing. And it was kind of hard to, I felt like I had a lot of ideas I wasn't even able to get on the table,
Because you're kind of already like, people are coming in. Yeah,
there's already all these other things coming in, and it's fair, I just took the opportunity with Caprice to, be like, all right, let me try to get my thing out there. Like, all this pent up stuff and all these ideas that I've got.
Yeah.
And try to, kick that ball down the court. So
writing songs was always like really important for you then.
it was.
Yeah.
It was. I like being creative. And I'm not the kind of person that will sit around. Like some people will write 40 songs and pare it down to 10 for a record. I'm the kind of person that'll write 10 songs for a record. But I'm like kind of particular and meticulous. And if I think something's shit, I'll 86 it really fast.
Let it go.
And just get it off the plate. I don't finish ideas like that. Like it has to be one of those things that's stuck in my head and
That's cool.
kind of haunts me for days.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, just to geek out a little bit, man, about you being a writer. When you write your songs, do you also write the bass lines and you already have the drums in mind? Or do you let everybody else kind of decide what they're going to fill in? But since you were a bass player, I assume you kind of have all that stuff kind of working, right? In a way, maybe?
To a point.
Okay.
The thing is, like with the East Side Gamblers and Caprice too, I would have ideas like, a lot of times I would write riff wise. The drummer's going to hear that and it's going to be a pretty good idea of what I'm hearing just, from the cadence of the riff and so on and so forth. They're going to figure it out. I can maybe, give them an idea and let them run with it. But I was never the person who's just going to sit there and write somebody's part. Generally, I feel like the only time I would say something is if I thought something sounded weird or off or wrong. And I feel like by, especially when you've got capable musicians in the band, if you just step back and let them come up with their part, if it's the right fit, a lot of times they're going to come up with something that makes your idea that much cooler.
So it's like everybody's really, like you said, capable, and then it makes it more of a harmonious situation.
And it creates a nice little feedback wall where your idea gets more evolved by listening to somebody else, right?
And at the end of the day, if there's three other guys in a room who are, to an extent, kind of letting you steer the ship creatively, I always felt like I need to go out of my way to make sure that their contributions to those songs were there and being heard and mattered, And that's not to say that they didn't bring in song ideas from time to time too, I mean, Josh would bring in ideas, Cody would bring in ideas and stuff like that. And I would go out of my way. Maybe Josh would bring in an idea and it would be like 3 or 4 riffs that were he'd put together and I'd hear it and they were in key and they were maybe the same cadence, but I might just be like, I don't understand any of this, but that riff right there, like I can sing something to that. Like I hear something with that. Let's develop that. And here's what and same with Cody, same kind of stuff.
I love that.
So, shout out to Josh, by the way, man. He's my brother, man.
Oh,
and,
Josh,
fantastic guitar player as well, and a great human.
Probably one of the most underrated guitar players in Nashville.
Yeah, I feel like
he does everything.
The case.
Yeah, he's a terrifying player. He's a great guy. He's a great human. And the thing I love about Josh is I've been with Josh. I've known Josh for so many years, and he might slap me for saying this. I don't know, but I've watched Josh. Josh was always a good dude, but I've watched Josh grow as a human in so many positive ways. I think, evolve and be a dad and, just all these things and just, kind of almost, I swear to God, I've almost watched that guy find an inner peace that was not there.
Oh, that's cool.
When we
awesome.
when we started hanging out with each other, and I just think it's amazing.
So, and it probably transpires over to the music part of him as well.
Yeah.
And just a little side thing to Josh. I want to tell Josh, hey man, we got that song we'll put out, man. I promise you, we'll get it out, man. It's a killer song. He wrote this really great riff, man, and I wrote some vocals over it. But I just wanted to let him know that.
That's awesome.
Well, why don't we go ahead? Why don't we go ahead and take a quick break? I'm going to get some tools together because this is going to be, this part is one of my favorite parts of the podcast because we have an opportunity right now. We're going to make a cocktail.
All right.
Yay.
Suit up.
And I love this. And I know that you said that like the drinking, you don't drink a whole lot anymore, which I think is fascinating because I find that with so many of my guests, like maybe they just don't drink at all anymore or they just opt out not to. And we make mocktails. But we're going to make a cool cocktail and we're going to kind of switch it a little bit. So I'm going to get some tools together and basically I'm going to make a cocktail for you and Dan and you're going to make one for me.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'm going to teach you how to do it.
You're just going to tell me what I'm doing for you. Because if not, you're going to have a really bad time.
We're all going to make the same thing. It's going to be great. But I'm making one for both of us, and then I'm going to try yours. And I have faith in you. I think you're going to do a great job.
This could be a car crash.
Well, okay, guys. I'm going to get some tools together, and we'll be right back.
Hey guys, this is Sebastian LABAR, and you're watching or listening to Nashville on the Rocks.
Okay, all right. So we got a bunch of fun things in the studio right now. We got some tequila, and we have basically the setup for a margarita. So I'm very excited about that because you said that you do like a good margarita.
Yeah, you know what? I don't drink that often anymore.
Yes.
But when I do, I really do enjoy a good margarita.
Okay, good. So I do want to say beforehand that we just got some merch in. So you are our first guest since we have our new merch. So we're like a real fucking legit show. Like
We're doing
real.
it, man.
We're doing it.
So-
and I'm wearing it because I don't fucking care. So I'm wearing it.
And this is why I was such a holdout. I was waiting for you guys to become a real show.
Yes, thank you.
Now that you're a real show, I'm actually the first guest.
The first guest.
of the real show.
We're starting over. Like
yes, exactly. This
1
is
through
actually
26.
This is episode 1.
This is episode 1.
Those were all trial episodes.
Trial.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we won't tell those other guys. They
No. Don't be offended at all, Ryan Cook.
No.
But I'm on show number 1.
Yeah, Ryan. Yeah. So I just want to say, check out our website, NashvilleOnTheRocks.com. We got our store up. We got a couple of hats. Check it out. We got a trucker hat, a dad's hat, which is my personal favorite, even though I look really weird in it, and then a beanie. So we're going to have more stuff coming along the way, so feel free to check it out. For now, we're going to get back to making this. Okay, so I just washed my hands. Like I tell everybody, I'm a germaphobe. So,
Nice.
yeah.
It's a good wet.
Yeah, I guess so. So what we're gonna do is build this cocktail. Now, for everybody out there that's watching this, you're of course gonna see us do this, but for those of you that are listening, I'm gonna walk through how to make this. So you can probably do it at home if you want to. So we're gonna do a spin on a margarita. We're just gonna do a different kind of margarita. When I was at the store, I thought about what we were going to do to make this just a little bit different. And I got this interesting, like it's called the Real Infused Exotics. So we have these are more of like a syrup. Okay. So it's basically like a mango syrup. So I was going to do a mango cinnamon margarita.
All right.
Which I thought would be kind of cool. And
I don't hate mangoes and I love cinnamon. So
I probably should have asked you because I thought about doing peach and I realized that Dan has a really bad drinking story where he can't do peach anything.
Let me guess, was it peach schnapps?
Dude, it was peach schnapps and I vomited all over myself.
I knew. As soon as she said peach, like it was peach schnapps.
It was peach schnapps.
You have not. Everybody has thrown up peach schnapps at some point in your life.
Yeah, well, me, it was peppermint schnapps. That was my first kind, because who fucking has peppermint schnapps?
So
but when you're 15, you take what you can get. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this tequila, and because I'm making 2 cocktails, mine's going to be obviously double pour. So do you know what this is? It's a jigger.
Okay.
And it's a measurement for alcohol. So it's the bigger side is 2 ounces.
Okay.
The smaller side is 1 ounce. And then on the inside, you have these little like lines.
Okay.
That are like measurements. So like ½ ounce, ounce and a half. So for this margarita, we're going to do 1.5 ounces of tequila.
Right.
We're going to do 3/4 ounce of triple sec. We're going to do 1 ounce of this wonderful cinnamon-ish mango simple puree that I have, and then we're gonna do the rest with this keto margarita mix, which I'm really excited about. So I'm gonna pour.
And babe, slide anything to your right that's really far to your right. Pull it in just a hair, just so when you reach for it, it won't be so much out of the camera.
Okay, so I'm gonna do 3 ounces, and you're gonna do 1.5 ounces. So you're gonna take the other side, and then fill it up to this first line right here. See right on the inside how this is? Yep. Yes. You're gonna fill it right up to there, and then you're gonna pour it into this tin, and it doesn't matter which side of the tin you want to pour it to. Perfect. Okay, you're gonna pour it into the tin. Yes. Wonderful, beautiful. Okay. So Now that is, and we have a Repo tequila, which I really like. It's very smooth. You know, these guys can sponsor us all day long. Okay, and then I'm gonna do. So we're doing 3/4 of an ounce of triple sec. For me, that's 1.5 ounces. So I'm gonna pour it again, and I'll show you how to measure this out. So you're going to take the smaller side, and you see how there's like a line in here? Okay, so the top line from the top, you're gonna fill that
To the top line?
to the second line to the top. Yes. Keep going. Just a little more because it's gonna go, sorry, right up to the top and then, yes. Yeah, that next line.
Oh,
That's okay. Just throw it in there. It's fine. It's not gonna hurt. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna be done with that triple sec. And then I'm gonna take, again, so we're doing 1 ounce of this.
Love the color.
Love the color. Wonderful. So this is a little warm. So you're gonna do on the small side, yep, the small side of the jigger, you're gonna fill it up to the top. Yes, perfect. God, I hope this is good. All the way to the top. It's okay if you spill it. It's only some booze. Okay. And then we're gonna take, I'm probably gonna fill this up with 4 ounces. So for you, it's gonna be 2 ounces of this keto margarita mix, which I'm a fan of.
Wow.
Okay, pour that in there, yeah. Yes.
Just up once?
Oh, you know what? Flip it over to the other side, my bad, and fill it up to the top. Yeah, no, go ahead. No, fill it up to the top.
I think that's what we're doing.
Right? And then fill it up one more time. And I'm the one, I shorted myself. That's why I got confused. Yeah. Oh, actually, no, I did right. Sorry. You're good. You're good. I was in the weird spot. Okay. All right. So we are good to go ahead and shake this. And this is going to be an extra fun time. So you're going to take the little tin, put it on top of the big tin, get a little seal going there. All right, let me get this tequila out of the way. And then we are going to shake this for about 10 or 15 seconds. And you're going to notice this is going to get really like cold and frosty. And yeah, and ready? Let's count. Or not count. Let's just shout it. Go. Got so much ice in here this time.
It's a little warm in here, isn't it?
I swear to God, I have the AC on. I swear. I turned it on. I put it to like.
She's lying. There's no AC.
Right. It's all the heat.
She's cold. She doesn't care about us.
Yeah, what she was saying that earlier.
All right. I think we're probably at that point. Okay. So I don't have a ton of ice in here, so it's not like frosty, but you see how that's.
It's getting there.
Yeah, it's getting. You see how we're gonna open this? So just. Yeah. Yes. Or you can just put your fingers right here and. Yes. Perfect. That smells nice.
All right, man.
Okay.
It's going to be a
All
party.
right, and then we're gonna take the strainer, put it right on top, and we're gonna pour it over this fresh ice. Okay, here we go. I hope this doesn't suck.
Let's find out.
All right, let's find out. Okay, and then I'm gonna do a little lime squeeze in here, so you can go ahead and grab a lime, Tony. Squeeze it. And then we'll just put it in the margarita. Now, if I had gone about this a different way, I would have done the simple syrup a little bit differently. But what the hell?
All right.
Okay,
Good job.
here you go. If you need a towel, that's for you. And now we're gonna switch. So you're gonna get this bigger one here. So this is yours. I'll take this one, the nondescript glass, and then Dan will get this one. All right, well, cheers. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Cheers, man.
Thanks for coming on the show. Cheers. Okay.
Let's see how it is.
See how it is. Here we go. It's really easy to drink. And the mango and the cinnamon slight can make it a little bit more cinnamony, but it's not bad for a first
Wow,
run.
this is really good.
Not bad.
It's got a nice rounded bottom to
full
it.
body. Yeah.
Full
Full
body.
bottom, bitches.
Does that make any sense? Does that apply?
Is that like a steel? No. No. What's
dig
that
it.
movie that I can't think of right now?
Spinal Tap?
Spinal Tap. Is that a Spinal Tap reference, babe?
Nope.
Big Bottom. It's got a big bottom roundness to it.
One of the best bands ever.
I do know how you got with Tom Kiefer, but for those of us listening out there who might not know, so could you just kind of like bring us up to speed on that, if there is such a thing? Because
how I got with him to begin with?
Yes.
Okay. So I had lived here, for however many years at that point. It would have been 9 years. I'd already gotten to know everybody else in Cinderella. I knew Eric from when I first started playing with Bombshell Crush. He had just started his band Naked Beggars with his ex Inga.
With Inga, yeah.
And we did shows together. As a matter of fact, there was a girl in Naked Beggars named Christine who was their utility and keyboard player. That's my ex-wife's sister.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I actually recommended her for that gig because I knew they needed somebody, and she was with them and wrote with them, and was kind of a key member of that band. Christine was super talented girl. So I knew Eric. Then I met Jeff when he came into the fold, when he moved to Nashville and joined that band. Then I met Fred when Cinderella was doing some rehearsals to go out and do some shows together because those guys had introduced us. Well, Tom was actually the last guy I met. And it was one of those things where I guess I was working at Guitar Center. And Tom, I worked with all those guys and I did a lot of artist stuff there. And they sent Tom in to see me because he was buying a Fender Telecaster reissue because he was retiring his original 51 from the road.
Oh, nice.
And so he was wanted to buy something like that. So I met Tom that way and got to know him. And over the course of time, I had sold him, for several years, a few different things here and there. We just kind of got to know each other. Well, Tom comes into my room one day at work, and I don't remember what I was helping him with. But he, in conversation, said, "I'm going to hit you up pretty soon. I'm looking at maybe getting a different amp. I just made this solo record, and I'm going to go support it next year, and it's going to be a lot smaller venues. And I don't know if I need to be lugging these giant old Marshalls around that I've been using since the Night Songs tour."
Jesus.
So I'm like, okay,
That's a
fair
long
enough.
Time.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, all right, fair enough. And he said that. I said, yeah, cool. Let me know where I can help you with. I said, who's playing your band? He goes, I'm not really sure yet. And I said, well, if you need any help with that, let me know. That's all I said.
That's cool.
And it was just a passing comment, but it also falls under the heading of sometimes you got to shoot your shot. I didn't think anything of that. But anyways, a few days later, he calls me and he says, hey, remember that amp I was talking to you about the other day? And I said, yeah. He goes, when are you going to be at the shop this week? I was like, I'll be there on Tuesday. He goes, cool, I'm going to come see you Tuesday. So he calls me up, he comes and sees me. And he comes in and I'm showing him a couple different amps and I plug him in. Yeah, check this out. It's kind of like your old Marshalls, but smaller and blah, blah, blah. Plug him in. He's playing. He goes, cool. Here, you play for a minute. Let me stand back and listen to it. So he hands me a guitar and I just start playing. I wasn't thinking of it.
It's like a mini audition almost.
It's exactly what he was doing. I had no fucking idea.
Right. You're not thinking about it like that.
I'm standing there and I'm just sitting there and I'm playing. And I can remember laughing. Like I think my go-to demo riff at the time is I'd start playing Rock Bottom by UFO. I didn't know that UFO and Michael Schenker was one of his favorite artists.
Oh, that's
right?
so
I had no clue. So anyways, I'm playing for a little bit.
He's like, is
just
this guy
around.
serious right now? Does he?
So anyways, we're playing and he goes, cool. He goes, hey, real quick. He goes, that gives me something to think about. Hey, where's your acoustic section? I'm like, here, come here. So we go into the acoustic room and he goes, I've got this Taylor and I've been playing it for a while, but I think I might want something, cooler, like a little more vintage, like a Gibson or something. So I start showing him some acoustic guitars.
Nice.
And we're trading guitars back and forth and we're playing. And we're in this little room that's like the high-end room with the sliding glass door. And he goes, hey, he goes, shut the door. I slide the door and I go, what's up? And he goes, do they ever let you leave here? And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, do they ever let you leave here? I'm like, well, I leave at 5:00 every day. And he goes, no. like he goes, can you go, would they let you leave to go do some shows? Like, would you want to maybe come out and do some shows with me? And I'm like,
oh, that's so
like,
cool.
I'm like, yeah, man, I'd love to. And he goes, well, I'd love to get together and jam and just kind of see how it goes. I said, that'd be great. So the next weekend, the Gamblers were playing at 12th and Porter. And Tom shows up with his wife, Savannah. And it was funny. He had said he might come out. I didn't expect him to. And I didn't see him before he went on. And then all of a sudden I'm playing and people are coming up to the stage and they're like, hey, Tom Kiefer's in the back of the building. And yeah, I could look and I could see he's a tall guy and I could see his silhouette against the back wall. And I'm like, okay, we're just doing our thing. We're doing our set. So he was gone before I got off, or when I got off stage, he was gone. So I got a call like a day or two later. Hey, can you come over? Maybe bring an acoustic and electric, and here's a couple tunes and check these out. And, let's, all right, cool. So I went over and I played and sang with him. And then his wife came home from doing stuff and, hey, Savannah, come here and listen. And we played through a couple things and we were singing together. And he actually was like, so he was interested in hiring basically all of the gamblers except for Josh. Not because Josh isn't awesome, but because he didn't need 3 guitar players in the band.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
So he actually was like, yeah, like the drummer's great, the bass player's great. Well, our drummer at the time was Kobe.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Cody, the bass player, but
Right,
Kobe,
your brother.
the first drummer. Kobe had a metal fabrication business that he was starting on the side. He also worked for Makita at the time. And literally he was like, I don't have time. And to his credit, that metal fabrication business inside of 2 or 3 years was like a multi-million-dollar business. It's what he does to this day.
So, yeah, that's
and
cool.
He, good on him.
Right.
Great vision, super talented dude. And that's what he does. And he's, got a wife and kids now, and he's got a great life. Cody, I talked to him about it. He was working at Gibson Custom, and at first they alluded to, yeah, we could probably let you go to do a couple tours. And at the last minute, they pulled the rug out from underneath him and said he couldn't.
What?
Yeah. So it wasn't for a lack of effort. And, he wasn't willing to leave his job at the time. And I can't blame him, you know. And listen, that was a previous regime there. That was before the current people took over, Cesar and those guys. And, Cody has a really great standing there right now. He's the head of new product development at the Gibson Custom Shop.
No, that's
he gets
cool.
to do a lot of cool stuff and all that. So I reached out to a guy named Paul Simmons, who I knew that played with Reverend Horton Heat and was kind of a Nashville, like everybody loved Paulie. He was an amazing drummer. Paulie brought in Billy Mercer, and it was the 4 of us, including Tom, got together and jammed through a couple tunes at our house, at my house one night. And Tom was like, it's fucking great.
That's awesome.
And he brought in Paul Taylor, and that was the band.
Oh, I love Paul.
So yeah, and so that's kind of how things got started with Tom, and I've been with him now. This year will be 12 years.
Dude, let's talk about that one show where we played together, man. We opened up for you. I was playing with Karabi.
Yep.
It was the what was the name of the club again?
I think it was 3rd and Lindsley.
That's right.
That was
And
the first tour. So that'd have been 2013.
That was a packed house too, man. And you guys crushed it,
before my
man.
time.
And I was telling you, man, it's like that's when I feel like I talked to you. I'm like, dude, I love you. You're like an MVP up there. You're doing it all. You're doing the guitars.
That's awesome.
The harmonies. You're kind of like that cool support, man, up in that band.
Well, he makes it. The thing that's really cool about Tom is he wants the people in his band to shine.
That's awesome.
He's not a, hey, always be 5 feet behind me and stand still and don't leave this area of the stage or anything. I remember I've always been pretty animated on stage, and I don't think about it. I just play. And that's just kind of what comes out. And I remember after a couple shows, I didn't know Tom that well yet. I was getting to know him. And I said, hey man, I'm not like too much, am I?
Stepping on toes
and
or
he goes,
anything.
what do you mean? I was like, I know I'm pretty active and I don't want to. He goes, no. He goes, I didn't hire you to just stand there. He goes, you're great. You keep doing what you're doing. You're doing. He goes, because he goes, you do whatever you want. He goes, I promise you're not going to work any harder than me. And I was like, all right, challenge accepted.
This is awesome.
But, it's still true. Nobody works harder than him. I bust my ass and I always want to be good. But, he cares way more.
It's his thing. So it's his vision. Sounds like.
I mean, I see a lot of guys that are, that far into their career that they care just enough to do the show. But that's about it.
Yeah.
he does an hour and 30-minute vocal warm-up every night before he walks on stage. He does the show, then he does a 20 to 30-minute vocal cool down every single night.
Wow.
He does vocal exercises when he's at home. He's
always working
he's
on
doing
it.
cardio before the tour starts to try to get that ready.
Yeah.
He's like, he cares. He walks off stage every night and he's, if something's not quite right with the sound, he's saying something. He's, he just cares. He wants to be everything to be as good as it can. I mean, that's why we're a band that tours. It might be more efficient for us to tour and do fly dates like a lot of bands do. Mm-hmm. We do a bus virtually everywhere.
Okay.
Because he wants to carry our own gear because he wants his amps on stage every night.
So he knows them and he's
he just wants
familiar,
everything. He wants everything to sound as good
consistent.
as it can sound.
Can I ask you something about Tom Kiefer and his vocal thing?
Yeah.
Because it seems like he's the type of vocalist that would really need to take care of that voice, because it seems like he's got this voice it demands so much physically every night. Is there something that he goes through, man, just as like a, I've listened to his music since I was a teenager, man, and I'm just wondering how he handled all these years.
That's a great question.
Okay, so there's several levels to the answer of that question. I'll try to go through them. So Tom, and you may or may not already know this, he has a partially paralyzed vocal cord. And
didn't know that.
Yeah, and it came on, I think he told me he started having problems with it maybe towards the tail end of the Heartbreak Station tour. And it's not because a lot of people hear his voice, they hear all that rasp, and they think he sings in a way that would be damaging to his voice. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're a singer, and Dan, I know you know this, if somebody doesn't sing right, they don't project, and it's all in their throat. And if they sing real raspy, it's actually kind of quiet. And that's where you'll do more damage. But if you're singing from your diaphragm and you've got good technique and you're pushing correctly, that's actually the right way to do it. And it's actually not nearly as hard as trying to do it all right here.
Yeah.
Tom's got really good technique. His voice, when he goes from his chest voice to his head voice, where that top range is, his head voice is just raspy. It's just that's how it sounds.
It's just naturally.
And it's not because he's forcing or inducing that growl or anything like that. His vocal cord paresis, and I think I'm saying this right. I think I'm describing this correctly. I don't think he'd slap me for this. Basically, it's like this fluke, bullshit, shitty lottery that he won to have this issue. It affects like 0.005% of the world's population.
Okay.
And basically what it is he got a fucking cold, and the virus settled on his vocal cord and it killed a nerve ending.
Holy shit.
So he's got one vocal cord that the nerve is dead in and it doesn't work right.
Yeah.
So
I've heard of
so all of a sudden
weirdness.
he's out and everything's fine, and then one day he starts singing and his voice just randomly starts cracking for no reason. And it feels fine and he can't figure out what's going on. And then they scope him and there's no nodes and there's no polyps and there's none of this stuff. And he went for years, they couldn't diagnose what the problem was, and he struggled with it. And then he finally found somebody who was testing for something else, I guess. And he said, let me check something. And I guess they hit his vocal cord with an electrode and that cord wouldn't move like the other ones did. And he goes, you've got a paresis on your vocal cord. That's how they diagnosed it. So he actually found this vocal coach who was recommended to him, if I remember right, by Mark Slaughter.
Okay.
And it was a guy named Ron. God, I can't remember his last name. He passed away during COVID, sadly, but he was an opera singer, and he'd worked with Steven Tyler and Paul Stanley and like all these people. And he's Lizzie Hale. He worked with her actually before he passed, and he's like world renowned.
I think I know who you're talking about. I think I may have a book written by him.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
And he actually told Tom, listen, you can sing again. You just got to retrain your voice and you got to learn how to sing around the paresis. So Tom's been working for years at mastering his technique and learning how to sing around that paresis. And if I'm being completely honest with you, when I started with Tom in 2013, I saw Tom at his worst, like when his voice was fucked and he was out Cinderella's doing some shows opening for Poison, and he was really struggling. He was having a hard time. He shouldn't have been singing. He should have been having a surgery, but he didn't want to kill the tour because, people were counting on him. And so he struggled through it, and he really had a hard time. Like, you could visibly see it in his face. He was like, shit.
Well, it's like being a guitar player and then having paralysis in your hand.
Exactly.
And that's your whole living.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But when you're the lead singer, it's the thing. It's the furthest out front in the mix.
Yeah.
So it's like under a
It's
magnifying
right there.
glass. So when I started playing with Tom, I would say his voice was at 60, 65%. It was way better than it was several years earlier when it was maybe at 30%. You know what I
Damn.
mean? Every year, I feel like he gets stronger. There's nights the last few years, especially even since the pandemic when we had 2 forced years of rest, where we go out and he's hitting notes and I'm like, holy shit, 1989, where'd you come from? Like, he's singing his ass off, and he really, like I said, he puts in all the effort.
Since we're on the vocal thing, man, can we talk about you being a vocalist? And your range, you got a pretty stellar range, man. And I don't know how you do it, man. Like, talk about your range and like how you get the hell up there in the register. And are you singing really loud, or like, is it just like your genetics? What's going on there?
I have a loud voice, but a couple things. I think a lot of my influences when I was younger were singers of a higher range.
Right.
And so I probably trained myself up to that unconsciously, just, learning to sing and singing along to that stuff. Also, when I was in school, I was in choir.
Okay.
And I was in choir even in high school, and I learned a lot about singing harmony, just from that, being able to find thirds and fifths real fast and have it click in and make sense and lock in and be able to follow melodies. Then the other end of that, honestly, super formative, early years, Alice in Chains, and probably even a little more importantly than Alice in Chains, right around the same time, Saigon Kick. Shout out to Jason Bieler.
Yeah.
So, because
Great bands, by the way.
I love those records, and I had lots of long drives in my car when I was in college. I'd have to drive like 45 minutes each way to work and different stuff like that. So I was always listening to music, and I was always singing. And I was already singing in bar bands by that point. And like, even as a teenager, I was the kid that was the de facto singer in the band because I was the only one who had pitch, like in my
That's
first
so funny.
band, or at least good enough pitch to sing and, be able to play bass at the same
Right.
time. And so I, kind of like, I would be driving along in the car, singing along to Saigon Kick or Alice in Chains or whatever. And I wasn't even thinking about it. I'd sing like the verse and the chorus. I'd sing the main melody, and then the next verse and chorus, I'd sing all the harmonies.
Okay.
And I just kind of flip around and do that. And it was, like I said, it wasn't a conscious thing. I just like to sing, and I'd have that stereo cranked, and
those were fun bands to sing to because they have so many cool harmonies.
yeah,
right?
Saigon
That's
Kick
fair.
was like Alice in Chains, but it was just fifths instead of thirds.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? It's just everything was a little more major than minor, but they had amazing hooks and these insane killer tight harmonies.
Sure.
So, I'll maintain that The Lizard's one of the 5 best records of the 90s.
Yeah, that is a
love
good
that.
record. Dude, we're trying to get Jason on this podcast, man. He's a friend of my buddy Andy Black Sugar.
I'll text him right now.
Yeah.
if you
Dude,
want
text
me to.
him, man. Yeah, I
Be
reached
like,
out
guess
to him.
what I
when
just
him
got
and,
done doing?
Jeff
Well,
Scott Soto was in town. And
Well, he's
dude,
got a new record about to come out.
Oh,
and,
cool.
He just sent me a link to it yesterday to listen to and tell him what I thought. Anyways, so yeah. But I've actually found, as I've gotten older, I don't know if you ever felt like this, if you did much cover stuff, Dan, when you were younger, but I kind of feel like it took me a while to figure out what my voice was. Because I got really good at mimicking a lot of different people from playing in cover bands when I was growing up.
Right.
And it helped in a sense that I got really good at blending with singers that I was harmonizing with. But it took me a minute to kind of figure out what my voice was and where my strong spots were. And
Yeah.
I did.
Right.
And for whatever reason, I'm definitely more of a tenor. And there's some stuff that I can sing that, like, I have an easier time with, that people are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, actually, it's kind of really comfortable for me. Like, I can sing like old Chris Cornell stuff very comfortably.
That's good.
But if you
That's
ask me
awesome.
to sing like Dave Grohl stuff, it's not very good. You know what I mean? Like it's okay.
Right.
But it's not like, it's almost like it's at a point lower in my register where I almost struggle to hear myself.
Oh, that's so
But
funny.
if I'm just belting, if I'm just singing, like,
It sits in that sweet spot.
it's just in a sweet spot where, I'm in my head voice, like, for whatever reason, I can, like I said, I could step up to a microphone and probably sing Jesus Christ Pose cold.
Dude, that kind of like that Bullet Boy range. You remember, like, what's his name? Mark
Turine?
Like,
Yeah.
like what,
Yeah.
is that how you say it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That type of range, right?
It's just kind of, I mean, I don't know if I'd use Mark as a reference for me, but
But he's kind of got that range where
He's
it's
got
kind
a
of
range,
high velocity
yeah.
rock.
oh
up
yeah,
there,
no,
right?
he's on a level for sure, and he can belt, he can scream. But yeah, just for whatever reason, that a lot of that higher range is just kind of my sweet spot. It's just kind of what's comfortable.
Yeah. See,
know.
and I
And
want
I also get the comment from a lot of people too that they meet me and they hear me talk and we, whatever, they know me for whatever amount of time, and then they hear me sing. And I've heard this come out more than once. I didn't expect that voice to come out of your head.
see, and I can kind of say that too, because like you're like, I'm a loud talker, I think, but that's also because
No.
shut
I'm just kidding. Babe.
your face hole, because I'm
Somebody's about to be on the couch tonight.
I'm a New York
Too much to drink, man.
I'm a New York Italian, and 2, I'm a bartender, so like I'm used to
Well, you have to project, otherwise people
Yeah.
can't hear you over fucking honky tonk
and I'm
badonka-donk.
short, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's a whole presence.
And when you wanna watch TV and they're letting you know like who the killer is, the big reveal. She always comes in and she says something, and I always got to rewind it. I'm like, I didn't hear what the guy said.
It's a gift. It's a gift.
Now, tell me, is there a band that you're really into right now, currently, that you're listening to a lot of?
God, I mean,
I should have probably given you more time for this.
no,
but I
that's
would like
fine.
to
That's
know.
fine.
Doesn't have to be a new band either, man.
No.
Just like something that you're digging real hard right now.
Yeah.
Okay. One band that I always sing the praises of is Big Wreck.
Oh God.
Amazing band.
Dan loves them.
Another band, and I mean that guy. I mean Ian Thornley, like one of the scariest guitar players on earth, and he sings like a young Chris Cornell meets Robert Plant. It's stupid.
It's like Richie Kotzen almost, right? The same
Yeah,
type of,
yeah. I knew about Ian I saw Big Wreck 2 weeks before their first record came out, opening for Dream Theater in Chicago in like '98.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. So, and they were getting heckled by guys in the front row and stuff like that. I'm like, this band is fucking amazing. And I've been a fan ever since. I think I've actually
Those guys must feel so stupid now. That are,
I've seen that band probably
heckling.
7 or 8 times. And so I love them. Another band that I've been listening to lately that of that same ilk, another Canadian band, similar name even, a band called Big Sugar. They actually, the second time I ever saw Big Wreck, they covered a Big Sugar song.
Oh, that's so funny.
So, and the reason I even know about some of these bands is when I was in college in Macomb, Illinois, where Western Illinois University is, which is a town that doubles in population when school's in, right?
I went to a college like that.
Yeah, there you go, right?
Yeah, same.
And it's awesome. It's a
Yeah.
great town. The cable service there, Cox Cable, didn't get MTV. But for some fucking reason, they got Much Music out of Canada.
Okay.
So, and Much Music is Canadian MTV. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
No, I'm not, but that's interesting.
Well, so
that they would get that.
Yeah, but the thing about Much Music is because it's Canadian, they have these Canadian content laws.
Okay.
So they have to play like 70% Canadian bands. They can't play other stuff. So I would discover all these Canadian bands that nobody had ever fucking heard of.
Oh, that's
In the
cool.
States, like Big Sugar. And at the time, Big Wreck. And Danko Jones and the Matthew Good Band. And, like all these people.
That's
you're like-
interesting.
yeah. And Big Sugar was this cool, kind of fuzzed out, grooving rock band. They had a record called Heated that I kind of have rediscovered lately. And I found another record of theirs that was the one just before that. I'm trying to remember what the fuck it's even called. I've been listening to it a ton. Hemivision.
Hemivision?
So Hemivision and Heated. Those are the 2 records. Check them out. They're badass. And they came out like 96, 98.
Love it. 90s music was fucking great.
Yeah, really good. And what else have I been listening to lately? honestly, the Marvelous 3 record that came out a year and a half ago, it's called 4.
Okay.
Incredible record. Maybe the best record of their catalog, and they hadn't done anything for 20 fucking years.
I'm not
They
surprised.
made a record to go out and do a couple shows, and the songwriting's fantastic, the playing's fantastic. It's like I played it so much the year it came out that I wouldn't post my Spotify year-end results online because I was scared that those guys were going to see it and be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you, Higbee?"
Because if you know them too, it's like,
yeah, I know.
Jesus,
like,
man.
God,
much, Tony.
Yeah, fucking loser.
Let's not make this weird.
Anyways, yeah, so I saw, I was like, I can't fucking ever post that online. Fucking Butch and Jace will make fun of me for forever. But that record's that good.
I love it.
We're gonna check that out, man. I know it came out, whatever, and I just haven't really checked it out
so
yet.
fucking good. There was I'll give you guys a quick story about that, just to give you an idea how good that record is, and I haven't shared this story with anybody.
Ooh.
Exclusive here.
So-
Nashville on the Rocks.
My dad died last year.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Shit, I'm sorry.
Hey, no, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, listen, he died too young. He was 70 years old, barely 70. Like he turned 70 a week before he passed away. My dad died because he didn't take care of himself. He smoked from the time he was a teenager. He ate like shit. You know, I had told myself mentally, I was, over the years, I knew that he probably wasn't going to live as long as he should just because of the way he didn't take care of himself. And I prepared myself for that mentally, because
That's a harsh reality.
Well, yeah, because for all the friction there was between us when I was growing up, you know, he stepped up later in my life, especially when I got sick. We mended a lot of fences. We were in a much better place.
That's great.
You know, he went from being almost resentful of me being a musician when I was younger to being proud of me when I was older, and coming out to see me, and, you know, driving to see shows if he could, and, you know, spending time with me and being super supportive and checking him. It's just
That's awesome.
totally different, you know. Like I'm really, really grateful for the last, you know, 20 years with him, you know, give or take, because they were great. But, you know, you say you're prepared for that as much as you can, but you never really are prepared for it when it happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't totally be. You can't process that out of that emotion until it actually happens completely, you know? So he was sick, and I knew he wasn't going to be around long. He had a surgery that went sideways. He had a massive stroke, and he suffered a lot for the last 6 to 9 months of his life. Like, he really just his whole left side was paralyzed. His right leg was bad. He was bedridden for the rest of his life, and he was always in pain. So I knew it was coming, and I went to see him. And all the way up to that point, I'd been so like, my emotions had just been shut off. I wasn't feeling, you know, I didn't feel like I was feeling right. Like it wasn't right. I didn't feel like I was grieving or mourning. I was like, there was a part of me that was like, is there something, am I fucking broken? Is there something wrong with me? Cause I'm not reacting. I'm not whatever. And, I left his house after seeing him. And it wasn't the weekend he died, but it was a couple weekends before that. And at the time, I thought that might be the last time I saw him. I just wasn't sure. And I went out and I got in the car, and I was nothing. And I just started my car. And right when I started it, and I wasn't listening to this record, like Spotify, I was on some random fucking whatever. This song from that Marvelous 3 record came on. It's called Growing All My Hair Out. And there's this lyric, the very first lyric of the song, I carry this old lighter in my pocket, even though I haven't smoked since I was young. And for whatever reason, the sentiment of that lyric and just the song and the whole thing hit me like a fucking freight train. And I started just bawling in the car, sobbing. And I was like, so like overcome with grief, but then I was also relieved at the same time because I knew that was the point where I was just like, okay,
you're processing.
Now
it.
I'm processing, you know what I mean? And I hadn't done any of that. And I actually, I picked up, I called Butch Walker while I was driving after this had happened, and I'm still crying. And I was literally, I don't know why I didn't think he was going to answer the phone. And I literally was leaving, I was just like, I'm going to leave a voicemail and just thank him. And he answered the phone.
That's awesome.
And he's like, hey man, what's up? And I'm like, hey man. And he could hear my voice. He's like, are you all right? And I'm like, and I started telling him, I'm like, I just want to call you and thank you. Like, and I told him what was going on with my dad, and he didn't know. And he'd lost his dad to cancer years earlier. And I said, you know, I just wanted you to know that I felt like I was broken and I didn't know what was wrong and I wasn't feeling anything and this, that, and the other. And this just happened. And I mean, for what it's worth, thank you. I don't know, you know, I don't know what else to say. And we talked for a little while. He told me stories about, you know, his parents, his dad passing away and him, you know, kind of feeling the same way and feeling like he had to shoulder all this stuff at his dad's funeral and be the man of the family and all that stuff and everything. But then he also conveyed to me that first lyric about that song, that lighter that he's talking about, was a lighter that was his dad's.
I was going to say, like, is there a connection there?
And so, you know, he told me all that, and I don't know, it just, like I said,
it's pretty heavy, man.
It's super heavy. And, you know, he was so sweet, and we talked for probably 15, 20 minutes. And, you know, I hung up with him, and I, you know, processed that. And like, that was the moment when I heard that song that I knew everything was going to be okay. It was going to be hard and it was going to take a while, you know, but at least I knew I was going to be okay and I wasn't broken. And you know, and then my dad passed away a couple weeks later, and I was able to get back up there and be with him, you know, the last day before he passed. And, you know, I'm super forever grateful for that. And, you know, anyways, I don't know where I'm going with that, but just, that's every time. I'll never hear that song and not think about my dad.
But
that's a sign of A, great song, an amazing song, and B, that's maybe part of the reason why I still play that record. Once a month. Minimum.
And you know what's really cool, Tony, is that like the connection that music has been for you personally, and like all these things, how it's been like a utility thing almost, you know, like to get you through moments, to kind of make you realize these relationships and, like, you know, the nostalgia you were talking about earlier. I think that's just it's a really cool thing when you know that music plays such a role.
Well, I'll go one step further than that. So the next weekend or 2 weeks later, I go up to see my dad, and he's going to go. And they were having a, you know, I just knew his wife had messaged me or called me and told me, hey, he's taking a turn for the worse. I think it's going to be way sooner than later. If you can get up here, if you want to. I know you're just up here, but if you can get up here, you know, and you want to come up. So I did. And I went up and I saw him, and he wasn't, at this point, he wasn't opening his eyes anymore. And he, you know, it's just, I knew I was talking to him, and I thought he could hear me, but I wasn't. He wasn't opening his eyes, really responding all that much. And I was holding his hand, and I finally just leaned into him and I said, hey, you know, none of us want you to go, but if you have to, it's okay, you know? And I said that, and he squeezed my hand. And, you know, those were my last moments with him. And I left, and once again, I'm numb, and I'm driving up the road, and I stop because I have to get gas.
It's always when you're driving, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're just kind of like zombied out. So I stop and I get gas, and I'm pumping gas, and I pull into this new fucking gas station in Davenport, Iowa, like right by the bridge. Not that means anything to you, but it was like the last decent gas station before I was about to drive through some ghetto, and I needed to get some gas.
Right.
So I'm putting gas in the car, and I get out, and they're like blasting fucking techno. It's like a fucking rave. Right? It's like, and I'm like, what is going on out here?
The person behind the counter,
I'm
they're
like
like,
pumping gas, and I'm like looking up, and I'm like, what the fuck? fuck is happening right now? And I just can't even process it. And then whatever the rave is ends for a second, and there's like one of those gas station commercials, come inside and buy lottery tickets and you know, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, anyways. And then this song starts, and it's the song Bad Time by Grand Funk Railroad. And my dad raised me on Grand Funk Railroad, and there was this 8-track that he would play every time we went on a family vacation, and he would always play that song.
Oh, that's cool.
And I heard it, and I started laughing because I felt like it was like,
yeah, kind of meant to be.
Yeah, I'm not a religious person per se. I have some inner feelings and spirituality and stuff like that, but you're not going to see me at a church on Sunday, and I'm not a Christian by any stretch of the imagination. But I heard that, and I was just like, it felt like he was talking to me.
That's interesting.
And it made me just, goosebumps. I still get goosebumps when I think about it. I literally recorded a video of it and sent it to my sister.
That's awesome.
Because I was just like, I can't believe, this is happening. And so, yeah, once again, like you were saying, Dan, the music just it speaks to you in a certain way. And I had the exact same thing happen after his funeral. I left his funeral and went to the airport to fly straight to my first gig with Tom the next night in Wichita, Kansas. And I'm at the Moline Airport. Same thing, random music playing, and all of a sudden another Grand Funk song comes on.
Oh, that's crazy.
While I'm, sitting trying to compose myself to get on this flight. I'm just like,
no shit,
man. Yeah, the locomotion
Special.
this time, actually. But yeah, and I'm laughing because I feel like he was just trying to make me laugh.
What is next on your horizon? Like what's going on for you for the next year?
Well, honestly, this year, it's a little chill, not in a bad way. I've got I've got some scattered shows with Brother Kane in March.
Okay.
And those just kind of popped up. Actually, to the point where I already had plans to be out of the country for 5 days, and a couple of shows landed on that, and they're going to use a sub.
Oh,
which is fine.
Because you're still going out of the country.
Yeah, because I'm gone. Yeah. It was like so last minute. Like this stuff just kind of popped up on the radar. But everybody's got different things going on, so you have to, especially, when the band, I don't want to say Brother Kane's treated as a side band, but, Damon's main priority is Leonard Skinner.
Sure.
And my main priority up to this point is Tom Kiefer.
Sure.
And so, and we both recognize that, and everybody's got, so, you have to be a little bit flexible on those things. So there's been a couple of Brother Kane shows where like Brent Fitz played drums, or the original guitar player Dave Anderson played guitar, and we're all simpatico and everything's great.
Love it.
Just got to be able to kind of move on the fly and make it work. But it's important that Damon continues to roll that brand out and build some momentum there. Because let's be honest, man, Skinner is wonderful, but it's not forever. It could be, I think they don't know when they're going to stop, but they're just going. But, all good things do come to an end at some point. And, it'd be great if Skinner goes for another year, another 5 years. It'd be great if Brother Kane had built up enough steam, especially for Damon, when that stops. And I'm speaking for him, and I don't want to do that too loosely, but if Brother Kane's got some legs underneath it, and that becomes something that gets even busier at that point. But right now, just kind of taking opportunities where they pop up and going out and doing cool shows. I know the first show we're doing is March 1st. We're playing with Tesla up in Minnesota.
Love it.
Yeah. And
do you have any shows for Nashville?
With Brother Kane, we just played here. We literally were just at 3rd and Lindsley like 2 months ago.
Damn it. I missed that.
It's okay. You know what? Give it till way later this year. We'll probably be there. And then at the moment, my summer's pretty open, but I'm going to take that opportunity to do more writing. There's rumblings of a new Brother Kane record.
All right, cool.
So, we could see what comes of that. That could take up some of my time this summer, whether it's playing or also maybe a little writing involved there. Damon and I have talked about that a little bit, but we'll just kind of see how that shakes out. And then, I get busy with Tom again. At the end of August, we start up, and we've got about 6 weeks. So they're pretty solid, hitting some markets we've literally never been to. Like,
that's gonna be fun. We're
gonna be in the Pacific Northwest for a month.
Oh, I think that'd be cool.
We never go up there. It's like that's the hardest area to tour. Everything's so spread out.
Yeah.
It takes so long to get there unless you're
Yeah.
going to do fly-ins.
I could see that.
Yeah, you know. So, but that's all routed, and we're going to go up and play markets we've never been to. And Tom's been pretty smart last year and this year. We hit 22 and 23. We played a lot.
Yeah.
And he's been really smart about laying off and not oversaturating those markets, and giving them a rest so that maybe next year
He
we
can
go
come
back
around.
and hit them, and it's it's fresh, and it's not they're back again for the fourth year in a row. You know what I mean? So
Are they going to play? Are you all going to play Nashville?
yes. I don't know what I'm supposed to say and what I'm not supposed to say yet.
That's okay. We can talk about it off camera, but it's not like we won't talk to you before then.
Yeah, that's very true. No, at the moment there is a show that I'm hearing rumblings about in Nashville that will probably be October if I was a betting man.
Great.
And I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Sounds good. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. We've had some great discussions with you. You've thrown some great music our way, and I'm just really looking forward. I'm happy for you and all your endeavors coming up. I think it's going to be awesome, and I look forward to seeing you in Nashville around more. You're going to have to stop by the studio again and just hang out. We got some
man.
stuff
come
going on.
Come over, man. More. You're right around the corner, kind of, right, man?
Yeah, we're
literally
yeah,
we're at the street.
literally we're close to each
No,
other.
now that
Forget
you
that.
guys live here, I'm like, okay, I'm getting out the smoker.
Yeah.
We're gonna do some burgers.
Oh my God, we love barbecues.
Yes.
and we
got a
bring
big
food.
yard. We got a big yard. Bring all your dogs, man.
And
Yeah.
if you've got a fence,
Yeah, we do have a
We're
fence.
fenced in back there.
oh, there you go.
Yeah,
All right.
and then and we're good guests. We're house trained.
Oh, nice, nice.
All right. Well, Tony Higbee, thank you so much for being a part of this episode. Thank you for coming on the show, and now you're a part of the NOTR fam.
Hey, I listen, and to be fair,
Yeah.
I'm the first guest.
You're the first guest.
Now that it's
Guest number one.
Now that it's a real show and you have
Now
merch,
it's a real show.
I'm guest number one.
Sorry, Ryan. All right. Well, we will talk to you soon, and everybody check out for Tony Higbee. Look at his bands. Look at Brother Kane. Look at Tom Kiefer Project. Check it out.
Eastside Gamblers.
Eastside
man.
Gamblers.
Check it out.
All right. Cheers. Hey there, thanks for tuning in to Nashville on the Rocks. We're so grateful for your support. If you're enjoying our content, we'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to follow us on social media and give us a like on iTunes, Spotify, and all your other go-to streaming sites. Your feedback is super important to us, so please leave us a review as well. Thanks so much.